there's been a lot of commotion in the off-road world about whether or not something like that Jeep, like the one behind the cameraman that's coming up the hill, is really an off-road vehicle, or something like this could actually be, I don't know, something to take its place. And I say, nay, a Jeep is a Jeep, but this vehicle is still very capable in difficult situations.
Nathan, this is 2024. Why are we reviewing a 2016 Jeep Renegade Trailhawk right now?
That's because Roman and Tommy overpaid. That's because Roman and Tommy paid for one. This is our new TFL studio truck.
Camera car.
It's a camera car. And you know what? So far, it's proven to be pretty good. The camera guys have not done anything horrible to it yet. I was expecting horrible things. And there's a lot of things I wanted to talk about with this vehicle because, Andre, it's surprisingly capable for what is essentially a car. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, wait a minute, it's a Fiat. Yes, okay, it is.
But it's got 7 slots, it's got round headlamps, and I think it's good looking, actually.
I really like these. I actually almost got one of these for my wife. But they had a base model, right, that had a manual transmission option with all-wheel drive, but it wasn't this. It didn't have this all-wheel drive system, and it didn't have the lift and all the other extra stuff on here.
And years ago, you and I actually went to California when this was introduced, and we reviewed it too.
Yeah, remember that little one? It's like a rally car. We had a lot of fun with it. But there is one little issue, which we'll get to at the end, but that issue is connected to the powertrain.
Yes, and also we're going to take it on a trail here in the Rocky Mountains.
Yep.
But before we do that, we got to talk about a little bit about, well, first of all, the tires.
Yes.
And the whole machine in general.
Yeah, so let's start on the tires. Andre, if you may introduce these new Falcons.
Oh, yes. This is. I'm pretty excited by this.
Yeah.
This is the Falcon Wild Peak AT4W. So all-terrain 4W. 4W, they used to have the 3W, and now it's a 4W new generation of tire. It's a snowflake rated tire, M&S, so mud and snow, some snow capability as well, and ice capability, and it's available in many different sizes. And here we have a 225/65 R17, and look at the lugs. I mean, I'm pretty excited. I think this could be a very capable and also comfortable tire. You drove here on the highway. How did it feel on the highway?
The highway was no problem at all. It did. The only thing that I could feel is that it's maybe a little tiny bit louder than the tires that initially came with, but it's because I blast music and I'm half deaf anyway, I don't think it really matters. No, but seriously, the tires so far handled on the switchbacks just fine, and coming up here on this trail, so far so good. We have now the opportunity to test this on a very sandy surface, which is wet. If you look down, it's wet and loose. This sand comes up pretty easily, so it's a little bit of a challenge. And then there's some rocks and stuff on the trail. So I think it's a pretty good way to challenge this vehicle. Now, let's talk about a couple things that are very important. First of all, because it's the Trailhawk version, it has red toe hooks. Recovery points, I should say.
Love it.
Andre loves it.
Yes.
You know that approach angle is 30 degrees?
What?
That is a really good approach angle for any vehicle, much less this little tiny guy here. And it only has like an 8.7-inch lift. It may actually be a tad bit taller with these new tires, too. It just actually looks a little tiny bit.
8.7 inches is actually like an Outback. Actually, that's a lot of clearance for a crossover.
Especially because automakers really are hesitant about doing that. Do you need help with that? Turn your hand around and try that. Yeah.
Well, there's a latch, but the latch is not working.
Okay, well, Tommy broke it then when he was off-roading it. Okay, well, while you're doing that, let's talk about some of the other angles. 25.7 degrees breakover angle. Once again, I think this thing's a little tiny bit taller with these newer tires now. That's also actually a half-decent number. That has to do with the shoe. This wheelbase is super short, 101 inches and change. To put that into perspective, basically this is a Mini Cooper Countryman first generation. That's about the same, or they're in the same ballpark. But this is the craziest part. Back here, this departure angle, 34.3 degrees.
Those are really nice specifications.
If you think about what a regular Jeep Wrangler is, which is obviously better unless it's the Unlimited. The Unlimited's breakover angle on the base form is actually not as good as this. But this is actually decent numbers for this little guy. So I'll give it that. But let's talk about what's under the hood.
Yes, I couldn't open it.
That's okay, because maybe you don't want to. Okay.
Is it the Tiger Shark?
It's Toyga Shark.
Toyga?
Yeah, it's Toit. It's 2.4 liter, 4-cylinder engine. This is a complete Fiat powertrain, 180 horsepower, 175 pound-feet of torque, hooked up to a 9-speed automatic transmission. The 9-speed automatic transmission is one of its weak points.
But actually, it's been reprogrammed a couple times and refreshed.
Yes.
So it should be okay now, right?
Yeah, and it was doing just fine when I was driving here. And it is a proper automatic, not like a dual clutch. So far, no issues off-road, according to Roman and Tommy. This vehicle has over 100,000 miles. I think it's 103,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, it's pretty solid. But 180 horsepower in a vehicle that weighs just under 2 tons, that's a lot to move.
Well, plus beefy tires and everything else.
Exactly. And the all-wheel drive system in this, it's not just the only thing they put on here. They didn't just add a lift and stickers. It's got armor underneath, actually going almost all the way underneath. It covers the front end all the way past the transmission. And then there's another one back here covering this rear area where the gas tank is.
All right. So how about this, dude? It's snowing again.
Yep.
It's May.
Yeah.
Right?
It's Colorado.
Well, but I do have something here. I have Onyx off-road maps.
Ah.
Yeah, and it's a new, the latest iteration of the maps. Look, they have our trail labeled in blue and also green. So now they have color codings for difficulty levels.
So what does that mean?
Well, blue is like a medium difficulty. Green is a little bit easier. And, of course, black is like skiing terms, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, they still have ratings. They still have lots of ratings, so you can kind of click on a trail and you can learn a lot of different information. This is 5 out of 10, my friend.
This is 5 out of 10, this trail?
Yeah, up here.
Okay. I would say that we've done it before in some other vehicles, and they've some struggled.
All right, well, how about we get in and drive?
Sounds like a wonderful idea. Nothing happens on this screen, and probably nothing should, because this is about half the size of an average cell phone screen. But if your off-road settings are interesting to you, this is where you would turn this dial and also lock things in here. So let's explain. First of all, you have auto, and then if you look over here, you have snow, sand, and mud. Okay? I'm going to probably keep it on mud because things are going to get a little gooey. But essentially what that does is that changes the way the profile of the all-wheel drive system works. It changes the way the ABS system is working with it, and it also changes the algorithm with the automatic transmission. Now, there are other buttons here. Look at this. There's four-wheel drive lock, which it's on right now, and there's four-wheel drive low.
Wait, this has low range?
It's not exactly low range. So one of the things they did, which is kind of clever, is that whenever you're driving this thing on the street in regular mode, you're basically starting from a stop, like at a stoplight, in second gear. First gear is super low. What was that, 20 to 1 or something like that? And first gear only really kicks in when you're in your four-wheel drive low. And that tells the system that maximum torque has to be going out there. And in addition, it's always sending torque to the rear when you're in that mode. Okay, it was that. Sorry, I'll have to edit that part out. I was freaking, I'm like, what the hell? So that's how the system basically works. There's no special clutch system hooked up over here. There's no actual transfer case per se. There's a drive shaft, though, that does lead to the back, and it does take torque and shoves it to the back, allowing the rear wheels to get traction. And then if they start losing traction, the brakes will squeeze and prevent one of them from spinning, pushing the torque to the other wheel, making it spin.
All right, so we're in engaged first gear, basically.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, I was looking at the spec sheet.
Yeah.
And regular Renegades have a certain final drive ratio, which means basically the differential gearing.
Uh-huh.
The Trailhawk, like this, has a more aggressive one. When you combine it with that gear, the first gear, that's where you get, like you said, like 20 to 21 to 1 ratio, which is not bad for a crossover.
It's not bad at all. I recently took the Ford Bronco Sport up here, and it was the off-roadiest one you can have, basically. So it had right tires.
This is gnarly, dude.
Yeah, this is actually a little difficult. We're following our Toyota right now.
Ooh, I heard a skid plate.
Yep, we're gonna.
I hope it's a skid plate.
Gonna stay on the throttle, which is my way of driving anyway.
You need to let the system know you meant to make progress, right?
Yep.
Ooh.
It doesn't like this rock at all, but it didn't. I think that the Ford Bronco Sport struggled far less.
Okay.
But to be fair, there are different conditions. The Bronco Sport was up here in snow and mud and goo. This is slushy goo and sand.
Yeah, wet sand almost.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So let's try to straddle.
So I think
those.
basically the all-wheel drive system, like you said, it's trying to find traction.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the lowest gear possible, which is the first gear in this case.
Right.
And that's kind of what you want. You want crawling speed, right?
Yep.
You don't want to go up here at 20 miles an hour and damage everything.
Well, you do. I do.
Oh,
but
I
you,
don't.
You should.
Right.
Is really the point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But bottom line is that this thing, it's doing it, dude.
Yeah.
It's doing something that, if you recall, we've taken other crossovers up here in similar conditions. Some of them never made even past the parking lot.
No, stuff like even like the Corolla Cross, right?
Oh, that thing was
Toyota,
which this would directly compete against, I would say.
Yeah, and many other small crossovers can't even make it this far.
No. So this thing is off-road capable, light off-road capable. I would say that I've seen some guys actually lift these things. We brought one into the studio.
Yeah, I remember.
And it looked cool, but you don't have articulation when you have four-wheel independent suspension, not like you do with an axle. At the end of the day, it is, I would say, smarter to have at least a little bit more of a truck-based vehicle if you're going to really pound it. But this thing can do some basic off-roading fairly well.
And it also can be a commuter, an easy commuter, right? It's compact, you can park it anywhere. You can drive it around on the highway in the city, and also on the weekend you can do this. You can go into the woods.
Now, we've talked about it and we've praised it, right?
Yes.
The engine's weak sauce. It is, and I know some people hate the word sauce. I'm going to say it again. Weak sauce engine. It just doesn't have enough power. I know that there's a turbocharged replacement to this that came later on, and that's supposed to be better in almost every measurable way.
Well, we are at almost 9,000 feet above sea
That's
level.
one of the issues, is the high elevation. This thing does not like it. The Tiger Shark was not turbocharged, not for this vehicle.
But also, I have another issue.
Yes.
Jeep discontinued the Renegade. In 24.
It kind of baffles me, because this was, in Europe, they have a version of this that's a plug-in hybrid. Right? And that one gets really good mileage, and it has still an all-wheel drive system. It's supposed to be pretty decent, like Toyota, where they put the electric motor towards the back and have all that. Okay. And it's, I don't know, not here. It doesn't make any sense to me. This was a volume seller for a while. So why not update it with something that is a plug-in hybrid, entry-level model, and then you have more people coming to you to buy Jeep products.
You know what? And it's designed by Mark Allen, right? It's timeless almost.
Yep. Okay. No, it's a 2-foot thing. That's all.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, articulation is not its strong suit.
No. It's once again, but
it's a unibody.
Well, it figured it out, and I only at one point had most of the pressure on the left rear tire, and it figured it out and pushed everything through, and you can feel the power shifting around. Very good system in that respect, but fortunately, we have, I think, even better traction than I was expecting. New tires really help.
New design, yeah.
Yep.
I think tire technology has gotten so much better, and we have the new AT4Ws.
Yeah, and so far they've been very good on a trail that is extraordinarily slippery. The sand right now is wet and loose at the same time. It's got little rocks in it. Real difficult.
So we got to say a couple more things.
Yeah.
Roman and the company, TFL, purchased this for what, over 11,000-ish?
Uh-huh.
I don't know the market very well. It sounds like a decent deal.
Yeah, the market was showing these vehicles ranging between 10,000 all the way up to 19,000 for low mileage versions. And I'm only talking about the Trailhawk version of this vehicle. And there's a lot of chatter out there about the fact that the all-wheel drive system, the electronics, the engine, transmission, many of those things are not considered reliable by online standards. However, I've also seen people saying they put 200,000 on these things without a hiccup. I don't know which one to go towards, because I've never owned one of these, Hence, we're just driving one that's got over 100,000 miles on it, and so far, off-road, working pretty damn hard, it's shown to be pretty good.
And we've owned it for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, short time, but
we beat the crap out of it.
Yeah, already beat the bejeebies out of it.
Oh, speaking of which, do you want to tow with it?
Does it have a hitch?
I don't know if I don't think this one does.
Well,
but you
Tommy is about to put a hitch on it, I think.
Yeah, and you could tow up to 2,000 pounds when properly equipped.
I could.
Yeah.
Gauntlet.
Yeah, I figured that'd make you happy.
Anyway, I'm pretty surprised and impressed, actually.
I mean, she's just doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm
it's
not being
super
gentle.
jarring. It's not jarring.
No, the suspension setup in this thing, they really did a good job. I remember interviewing them when this thing came out. They really worked hard on it. And if you're bummed about not being able to get this, you still can get the Jeep Compass. The Jeep Compass is a little bit like a larger version of this that isn't as, I don't know, cutesy. So it's longer and it's got a little bit more stuff in it. But
it's maybe a little bit more aerodynamic too, but I prefer this style.
I do too.
This is like a Wrangler shrunk down, and I think I said it, I think it's timeless. I mean, this vehicle looks good 8 years, after it was built. I don't know if you agree, but I like it.
Ford fans are going to say the reason they discontinued it is because the Bronco Sport was so good.
Come on. You have to compete.
Yes.
Step up.
So Jeep is Jeep. Why not compete? In fact, this thing is more competitive now that it just got these tires on it. So why not put better tires on the regular one and, I don't know, add a little bit of horsepower to it, bring it back, have a plug-in hybrid, and suddenly you own the segment because nobody else will have a plug-in hybrid, at least right now, that can do light off-roading.
All right.
You're welcome.
Problem solved.
All done.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Check out oldtfl.com for everything automotive. And we're going to keep on wheeling.
Yeah. See you guys later.